All right, it is the Matt Thomas Show, but there is no Matt Thomas today. Ross Villarreal, Chris Gordy. You just heard the introductory press conference. Reed Sheppard, two of the fellas on with him. Head coach Ime Udoka and general manager Rafael Stone with us now on the Matt Thomas Show. Guys, well, let's go ahead and start with you, Coach. I imagine you guys always have conversations throughout the seasons, and probably at some point you said some shooting would be nice, and Reed Sheppard represents that.
Yeah, it's something that we, focused on improving within our team, and then a target of ours going into the offseason. Not just our guys growing in that area, but anybody that we felt like we could get our hands on and select. We'd like them to have that in their skill set, and obviously Reed's one of the best at it.
Rafael, I know you talked about it on draft night, and, look, people were out there saying, I don't know how deep this draft is and all that. There's talent in every draft, and time always tells out, how talented it will be. But I know you said you just saw something in Reed that stood out amongst, just above all the other guys. What was it you saw in Reed Sheppard that said, this kid is a piece we have to have on our team?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely starts with the shooting. He had a historic shooting season following a really successful high school and AAU career. So it didn't look super aberrational. I mean, whenever you're like the best shooter ever, it's aberrational. But and it was only 1 year. But having said that, he came in as a very high level shooter and then proceeded to just kind of blow the top off of it. So it starts with that, but. As we dug deeper, I think it all comes back to the basketball IQ. It flashed in all these different ways. The reads were really good. The shot selection was really good. The defensive plays were really good, and so it seemed to be a real thing. And people who do that in college at a super high level have been extraordinarily successful in the NBA. There is absolutely no guarantee that that'll work for him. Like, he's got to get better, and it has to translate. But the opportunity for it to be there, we thought was really special and unique, and so we were extraordinarily happy to get him.
What are the resources you use for those type of, there's tangibles, but there's also those intangibles, like you're talking about basketball IQ and work ethic and things like that. What do you do when you're vetting out these prospects to try to find those type of qualities?
Well, the first thing we do is just watch every minute that a kid has ever played. And we do that, and then we also process every shot he's ever taken, every free throw he's ever taken, and so we're very diligent in terms of, and not just like looking at his career in Kentucky. We go back, and so trying to accumulate as much information from kind of a basketball analytics and a basketball video perspective as is humanly possible, and then we aggregate that all up and discuss it and hammer at it and try and figure out, do we think it's fluky? Do we think it's real? What are the risks? We do all of that. At the very end of the process, what we do is try and get to know the person, because one thing I've kind of found out, we've been in this unique position of drafting high for several years now, and it was an intuition when we first did it with kind of the very first draft we had, which was Jalen and Alperin. But we didn't get a chance to really spend time with Alperin in advance. I was actually calling friends in Turkey, and I was like, we were doing
Turkish dictionary.
No, we did all kinds of crazy stuff trying to figure out who he was, and it turned out we got really good feedback. We got lucky; it ended up being very right. But with Jalen, we were able to spend real time. That was a COVID year. It's not. I would have happily flown to Turkey if that was even possible. But and then subsequently, we've liked that, and you're largely investing in people at a very young age, and their physical talent's immensely important, but it's honestly not as important as who they are as people, and are they about the right things? Are they good people? Are they caring people? Because they'll be good teammates if they are, and if they're not, it's going to be challenging. Do they have a work ethic? Do they have a backbone? Do they have a mental toughness? We talk a lot about I think Ime spoke about Jalen's mental toughness this past year being something we really, really like. Alperin's joy for the game is evident. And so I'm just using those because they're the two oldest of our young core. But But all of that, I think, really, really factors into the players that they ultimately become. So we try and get to know these guys. And I was lucky. I got to spend a lot of time with Reed in the pre-draft process. And then at the very end of it, quite a bit with his family. And, yeah, we're pretty blown away. He's got all the elements that you'd want to be successful in life, not just basketball, to be successful in life. And so I feel really good betting on someone who's like that. It's totally still a bet. It is absolutely incumbent upon him and us to develop and everything else. But that's the process we go about.
Ime, let me ask you, Summer League coming up very soon. And look, there's guys who've been Summer League MVP that we never hear from again. So you take it with a grain of salt. But is there something a guy can show in Summer League? You want to have that trust in a guy who's going to play and be part of your roster and your rotation. But is there anything you can traits you can see specifically from somebody in Summer League?
Yeah, I think, we take it back to last year. Our men played, 3/4 of a game, and you saw everything you needed to see in that 3/4. And so Cam, obviously, the MVP, and then Jabari and Tari played 2 games. They were dominant, so you knew that end of the season run for them translated into Summer League and then carried over into this season. So, yeah, you can get a really good look at guys and the competitiveness, IQ, all those things that we've seen on film and seen in workouts, obviously at a different level with competition out there, but you want to see who they are. And like Rafael spoke about, their character, work ethic, competitiveness. And so, yeah, some guys have had rough starts to their career in Summer League, and by the end of Summer League, they're playing great. And so how fast someone can really adapt to the NBA game and different things thrown at them. And, yeah, the IQ part, our coaches get our hands on these guys for a few weeks now and be our first real chance to see them. And so, yeah, you can definitely get things from that. But Summer League is just their first step, and so you don't, sell or buy just based on that. And I think, everything that Rafael mentioned, it'll translate well for Reed into Summer League and into his future.
Is there anything specific I know you spend a lot of time thinking about rotations and situations and how you use specific players. Is there anything you say, I want Reed Sheppard to be like player X, or as somebody, like as a comparison of somebody maybe you've played with before or coached before?
The shooting ability is what stands out immediately, and so you look at the best shooters in the game and you think of ways to implement them to doing things like that. But similar to what we did with Fred at times last year, we'd like to play him on and off ball. You can do that with Reed. He's a guy that comes off screens and pin downs or handles and makes the right decision. So that's a luxury that he can do both of those things. But that's just plans for the future, and
somebody who's not super tall and super lengthy but plays good defense.
Yeah, and so all those things obviously we saw in him and end up being the reason why we took him at third. But there's not one specific guy, but if he can be a little bit of all those guys, the shooters that we just mentioned, whether it's Curry or some Nash with the IQ, the guys that he's kind of been mentioned with, obviously great players, and we'd be happy with that.
Rafael, I wanted to talk about that specifically because, everything you read, people start playing, shooter. He is, I guess, I don't know, you call it combo guard, can play multiple positions, but the defense, I think, is underrated. 5 steals in the LSU game, against Ole Miss, against Auburn. He is active, getting his hands out there and defending. Is that what you saw on film and what intrigued you about him?
Yeah, it's a big part of it. He was a really good player in college, just obscenely good, and it wasn't, you can't be really good if you're not a good defensive player. He was a very, very good defensive player in college. Excuse me. The gap between college defense and the NBA defense is enormous. So really good college defenders come in as really bad NBA defenders. He's going to have to grow in that area. He's going to have to figure it out. But again, a lot of what we're investing in with him is we think he is going to figure it out. I don't know the timing of it, but everybody's bigger, stronger, faster in the NBA, and so you have to make those adjustments. And he may have to change his game a little bit, but yeah, if you can't do it at the college level, you have no chance of doing it at the NBA level. And if you're uber successful at the college level, you have a good chance in time of being able to be effective at the NBA level.
All right, so Reed Sheppard now into the fold. Of course, the goal is to win as much as possible. Coach, I'll start with you. What does this team need to do to make that extra leap as far as playing more consistently, I would say, especially with Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun?
I'd say the biggest word is growth for everybody in this offseason. And so I think some guys got their first taste of some success this year. We had the right mix of Fred and Jeff and the veterans you brought in, Dylan, not only those guys, but Aaron and Jay Sean and Jock and those guys, just seeing routines every day that some of these guys hadn't seen their first few years. So growth in general. I think being consistent is going to be another big word we use. We had some winning streaks, losing streaks, and we want to be more consistent across the board, not lose 3 in a row or have to win 6 in a row or 11 to end the season, but being more consistent. And so those 2 areas are going to take us to a next step next year.
Rafael, same kind of idea. I mean, look, we were at the draft party last week. Awesome. I mean, everybody I talked to said exceeded expectations on the fan turnout. Fans are excited, man. I mean, you built this young core, and now it starts to go, all right, let's go. Play-in game, playoffs next year, let's go. What for you, I mean, you've built the roster now, and now it's just about fine-tuning, right?
Yeah, I mean, we really like our group, and we're still extraordinarily young. Like, we're everybody's 9 months older than they were last year, right? So
you're just being able to buy beers now.
yeah, some, not all, right? So but yeah, no, it's we. The goal is to grow it organically if we can, and we think we can, and to keep the group together and have some real synergies. I mean, one thing about last year is nobody played together. And definitely nobody, and the coaches hadn't coached them. And Ime was trying to implement a defense and an offense, and he's talked about how simple he kept it on both ends of the ball at the beginning, and then over time we expanded, and that gave him advantages to create advantages on a game by game basis. And so we should start. You always have to start at the basics, but we should start slightly ahead and be able to implement more and be able to cater our strengths more, and our strengths should be stronger. We should know more about what a guy can do. This is a matchup we can go to and feel better about it because it's not a first-year player, it's a second-year player, or it's not a third-year player, it's a fourth-year player. And there are big differences in that. And then physically, our guys should all be bigger, stronger, faster, and better able to handle the rigors of the NBA game. That should, in theory, all happen. We still have to make it happen. Like, it is all about the work, and none of us are taking for granted that it's automatic, and I think we've had a really good summer with our guys up to this point, but it's only a third of the way through the summer, and the grind continues. And we have a good group of guys who are all about the hard work, but the hard work is super important.
And hey, for some of those free agents out there, keep signing the East, all right? We'll make this West a little bit easier for us here.
All right, that's going to do it. Rafael Stone, Ime Udoka, thanks guys for the time as always. We'll talk to you during the season and down the road.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. All right, Chris Gordy, Ross Villarreal.